Welcome back to another episode of Out Loud Geek, where we discuss news and views about pop culture, science fiction, fantasy, food, cooking, the outdoors, and more. For this video, as you can see, I decided to change up the background theme as I share my top 10 favorite Christmas TV shows and movies. And we'll begin with one that I have loved since I was a child, A Charlie Brown Christmas. This hand-drawn animated show was created by the late Charles M. Schulz and was originally broadcasted on CBS back on December 9th, 1965. It was then subsequently shown on broadcast TV for the next 54 years at Christmas time until the year 2020, when Apple TV Plus bought the exclusive broadcast rights. Since then, it's now only possible to view it on Apple TV Plus or on PBS stations when Apple TV Plus permits them to broadcast the show on a single night. The show is also available on disc. My favorite scenes in the show include Charlie Brown's interactions with Lucy, the Christmas play that she convinces him to direct, Snoopy winning the first prize for his decorated doghouse, and the tiny sapling that Charlie Brown purchases for the play as a Christmas tree in an effort to avoid commercialism, and for which he is ridiculed by the other kids. For me, the show remains as endearing today as it always has been. Interestingly, two Peanuts characters that aren't in A Charlie Brown Christmas, but who appeared in later works created by Charles Schulz, are Peppermint Patty, who didn't appear in Peanuts until August of 1966, and Snoopy's sidekick Woodstock, who made his first appearance in April 1967, but wasn't actually named until 3 years later in 1970. And yes, the little yellow bird was named after the massive 1969 rock concert that occurred in Woodstock, New York. My next top 10 favorite is also from my childhood, and it's named Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, which first premiered on CBS back on December 6, 1964. Making it 1 year older than A Charlie Brown Christmas. It can still be viewed annually on commercial TV, which means that this year's broadcast was its 59th. Unlike A Charlie Brown Christmas, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer was filmed using stop-motion animation with physical figures, and it was produced in 3 countries: the US, where it was written, Japan, where the stop-motion animation was filmed, and Canada, where the voice acting was recorded. Sadly, only 2 of the original figures that were used during the stop-motion animation filming are known to have survived. The rest of the figures were either destroyed or given to family members' children to play with, so those are very likely long since gone. What I have always enjoyed about the show includes Burl Ives singing most of the songs, the plot wherein Rudolph is rejected by his father Donner and Santa due to his glowing red nose, as well as the elf Hermie, who is rejected because he wants to become a dentist, then Rudolph and Hermie befriending each other and setting out on a journey after running away together, where they encounter the prospector Yukon Cornelius and the island of misfit toys. Then, of course, their eventual triumph over the abominable snow beast, and both Santa and Donner relenting on their earlier rejection of Rudolph, who then saves Christmas thanks to his nose being able to guide Santa's sleigh during a massive blizzard. The show's message is essentially that it's okay to be different. The third and last animated show that I have in my top 10 list is How the Grinch Stole Christmas, which is based on a children's book written by Theodore Geisel, who is better known by his pen name of Dr. Seuss. The show first aired back on December 18, 1966, which was about a year after A Charlie Brown Christmas first aired, and it continues to be broadcast on both commercial and cable TV every Christmas season. What I love about the show includes the large green hermit known as the Grinch, as voiced by the late Boris Karloff, and his hatred for all of the noise associated with Christmas thanks to the people known as the Whos and who live in the nearby community known as Whoville. The Grinch deciding to disguise himself as Santa Claus and his dog as a reindeer in order to steal all of the Who's Christmas presents, trees, and decorations in the hope that the act will stop Christmas from happening and all of its associated noise. And finally, the Grinch changing his mind when he hears the Who singing their welcome Christmas song without all of their Christmas paraphernalia. Then in the year 2000, a live-action version of How the Grinch Stole Christmas starring Jim Carrey as the Grinch was released, And it too has become one of my favorite Christmas films because the producers went to great effort to recreate the overall look and feel of what Dr. Seuss envisioned, and I enjoy the additional story elements that were worked into the film. One of my other top 10 favorites is the 1954 musical romantic comedy entitled White Christmas, starring Bing Crosby, Danny Kaye, Rosemary Clooney, Vera Ellen, Mary Wickes, and many others. The late Bing Crosby had an amazing singing voice, and he sung Irving Berlin's song White Christmas, for which the film was named, twice during the movie, once at the very beginning in the midst of a battle during World War II, and once at the end of the movie in a far more glamorous fashion as part of a stage show. I love White Christmas for its nostalgic 1950s feel, its huge musical numbers, and the plot in which the popular performing team of Wallace and Davis, as played by Crosby and Kaye, travel to Vermont with the Haynes sisters, as played by Clooney and Ellen, where they encounter their former commanding general running a financially strapped ski resort that his housekeeper, as played by Mary Wickes, helps him run along with his granddaughter. When the foursome arrive in Vermont, there's no snow. But by the end of the movie, the ski resort is filled with guests thanks to Wallace and Davis, and it starts snowing outside on Christmas Eve to create an actual white Christmas. Now that we're halfway through my top 10 list, I know that my next favorite Christmas film is going to be rather popular with viewers because it's a 1983 cult classic named A Christmas Story. The story in the film takes place in a 1930s Midwest industrial town, and it's about a 10-year-old boy who desperately wants to own a special BB gun, which he asks for as a Christmas present and is repeatedly told, "You'll shoot your eye out." That phrase is repeated several times throughout the film, which has many very memorable scenes, including the following. The daydreaming sequences that Ralphie, as played by Peter Billingsley, has, Ralphie's friend Flick getting his tongue stuck on a frozen metallic flagpole as a dare from their mutual friend Schwartz, his father, as played by the late Darren McGavin, as he battles with the home furnace and the neighbor's hound dogs, his father winning the so-called major prize, which is an enormous leg lamp that his wife, as played by Melinda Dillon, becomes very unhappy about, Ralphie finally getting his prize decoder ring to only find out that the secret messages on his favorite radio show are just Ovaltine commercials, Ralphie losing the nuts in the roadside snow when he's helping his father change a flat tire in the dark and says the unimaginably bad F word, Ralphie subsequently getting his mouth washed out with soap, then blaming his friend Schwartz for learning the F word, who then gets severely punished by his own mother after Ralphie's mother calls her, the leg lamp mysteriously getting broken by Ralphie's mother, Ralphie and his younger brother meeting Santa Claus at a department store, Ralphie beating up the neighborhood bully Scott Farkas, Ralphie's mother forcing him to wear the infamous and embarrassing pink bunny suit that he received from his aunt as a Christmas gift, Ralphie nearly shooting his eye out with the BB gun, as he'd been warned might happen throughout the movie, the neighborhood hound dogs getting into their kitchen and eating their Christmas turkey, and finally, the Christmas dinner at the Chinese restaurant. I never get tired of watching A Christmas Story, and we have a small leg lamp ornament that we always hang on our Christmas tree. I also purchased a replica pink bunny suit for a family member as a Christmas gift a few years ago, and he absolutely loves it. My next top 10 Christmas movie is the 1988 movie Scrooged, starring Bill Murray as a TV show producer named Frank Cross. The film is essentially a modern retelling of the 1843 Charles Dickens classic commonly known today as A Christmas Carol, in which Bill Murray's character is the movie's modernized version of Ebenezer Scrooge. The actors who play the ghosts are funny. Frank's girlfriend, Claire Phillips, as played by Karen Allen, is awesome, and the entire premise makes it a very funny and enjoyable film. Now, speaking of Charles Dickens, while I like several different movies that are each based on his classic tale A Christmas Carol that each try to stay true to the original story, my personal favorite of all of them is one that was originally made for television back in 1999, and it stars Patrick Stewart as the infamous Ebenezer Scrooge. Patrick Stewart did an amazing job of portraying Scrooge, and the overall feel of the 1999 film is definitely mid-19th century. And the other actors in the film also do superb jobs with their roles, which makes the whole story come to life. You may not be as familiar with the next film in my top 10 list, and that film is the 1947 film named It Happened on Fifth Avenue. so it's the oldest film in my list. I like this film because it's a very sweet story centered around a vagabond named Aloysius T. McKeever, as played by the late Victor Moore, who, rather than work, prefers to take up residence inside the vacant mansions of wealthy New Yorkers during the winter months because they prefer to spend the winter down in their other mansions that they have in Florida. For McKeever, the vacant mansions are warm and well stocked with food and beverages, and since there aren't any household staff around either, they become a perfect place for McKeever and his dog to live during the cold winter months. And any vacant mansions that he takes up residence in, he also takes care of them and leaves them as pretty much the way he found them, minus the food, beverages, and cigars that he may have consumed. And he always leaves before the wealthy owners and their staff return, at which point McKeever then travels down to Florida to live in their now vacant Florida mansions. During the New York winter that this movie takes place, McKeever encounters and invites some homeless war veterans to come and stay with him in the mansion, provided that they take care of it just like he does. As it turns out, the veterans want to purchase land at a closed military base to build homes for themselves and their families on. But the owner of the mansion where they are staying, Michael J. O'Connor, as played by the late Charles Ruggles, also wants to buy the land to use for something else. Also, unbeknownst to one of the veterans, the woman that he wants to marry is the daughter of Michael O'Connor. So the mansion is actually her childhood home, though she does not reveal this fact to him or McKeever. And as you may have guessed, both Michael O'Connor and his estranged wife, Mary, as played by the late Anne Harding, both also arrive at the mansion and end up pretending to be as poor as McKeever and the veterans while staying in their own home. If you haven't seen It Happened on Fifth Avenue, I highly recommend it. And this brings us to the 10th and final film in my top 10 list of favorite Christmas shows and films, and that film is the 1989 slapstick comedy National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, starring Chevy Chase and Beverly D'Angelo, who reprised their roles of Clark and Ellen Griswold from the original 1983 National Lampoon's Vacation. Their son and daughter are played by different actors, but Randy Quaid and Miriam Flynn also reprise their roles as Cousin Eddie and his wife Catherine when they unexpectedly show up at the already overcrowded Griswold home since Clark invited both his and his wife's parents to stay with them for Christmas. My favorite scenes include Clark getting trapped in the attic, Clark's Christmas-like troubles, the mishaps occurring to the Griswolds' neighbors because of Clark, the squirrel incident, Cousin Catherine's overcooked turkey, the Christmas tree catching fire, and the end of the film when the cops arrive in force to rescue Clark's boss, who Cousin Eddie kidnapped when Clark didn't get his expected Christmas bonus. Well, that wraps up my top 10 Christmas films and shows, and I want to wish everyone who has stuck around to the end a very happy and warm holiday season. Thanks for watching today, and a huge thanks to everyone who has subscribed to our channel. We appreciate your support. If you enjoyed this video, please press the like button, and please feel free to share a comment. If you'd like to see more of our videos in the future and help support this channel, please press the red subscribe button, and please press the bell to receive notifications for new content. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter by clicking on the links in the description. Until next time, this is Out Loud Geek.